I really love the ability to collaborate with folks. I love that you can get this information from volunteers. I think it's great. It's one of those times where if you want your faith restored in humanity, you can always turn to the genealogy tribe, I guess you could say. I feel like a lot of people are just so kind-hearted and willing to help.
So true. This is one of the nicest communities, I believe. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode. This time it's a podcast. We decided that it's time to do a podcast. So I am here with my sidekick, Ashley. Hi,
Hey,
Ashley.
everybody.
And so we are just decided that we wanted to do this for fun. And so hopefully everybody will have a chance to learn something new via audio. And actually, you can watch this on YouTube. So, Ashley, tell everybody about yourself.
So I have been researching my own personal genealogy for about 20 years now. Started off just as a hobby and has kind of been something I've never really put down. And then, of course, you were kind enough to bring me onto the team about 2 years ago, and it's been a joy. It's really great to blend a passion with something that can really teach me a lot of great skills. So thank you.
Oh, you are so welcome. You're awesome. And what people might not know about you is that you have a boatload of knowledge and have really jumped in and helped the community learn as well. So it's time to stretch your wings and do this podcast. So it's fun. We decided we've been kind of mulling over a bunch of different topics for those who are listening and watching. And so the first one we decided to talk about was FindAGrave because it's fun, it's free, and it's cool. And so what we thought we would do is do a couple things like what we love about it, what we hate about it, and some tips and tricks along the way. So, Ashley, what do you love about FindAGrave?
I really love the ability to collaborate with folks. I love that you can get this information from volunteers. I think it's great. It's one of those times where if you want your faith restored in humanity, you can always turn to the genealogy tribe, I guess you could say. I feel like a lot of people are just so kind-hearted and willing to help.
So true. This is one of the nicest communities, I believe. And FindAGrave being, if for people who might not know, it's at findagrave.com, but was originally created to celebrate the celebrities and where their grave sites might be in case people wanted to go visit and lay flowers or whatever. And then it kind of grew into this genealogy thing, and it is all volunteer run. And I really like it too for the community. You can reach out to other cousins that you see. We'll talk about some tricks about how to do that here shortly. But I think one of the first things I love about it is it's free. But there are some, we're going to talk about what some of those loves here because there's so much in here that you can do. And actually, I have a family member who built her entire tree on FindAGrave. So she didn't go to Ancestry. She didn't want to spend the money. She would go do research on Family Search, but she actually put everything, obituaries, photographs, everything into FindAGrave. And then as she was adding siblings and parents and children and whatnot, she was linking those to the individual profiles. And she created her entire family tree just on FindAGrave, which was kind of cool and benefits everybody.
That's really brilliant. I didn't even think of that.
All right. So what do you hate about it?
I would have to say, I feel like it's a two-sided coin. I don't love that you have to rely on volunteers. So you could have incomplete numbers of records for folks buried in each location. Also, just trying to figure out, I know I had a lot of this in my own personal history because of being from Philadelphia. It has been expanded and things have been moved. So abandoned cemeteries or defunct cemeteries and sort of tracking that through the history has been challenging for me.
On the flip side of that, though, back to the love side of it, I do love the part, it's kind of contradicting what you said, but love the part about the volunteers who will go out and photograph. Like if you put in a photograph request, people that live in the area might go out and photograph the tombstones that you need. But like you said, it can be a challenge. I've had people come back and say they were unable to locate the cemetery because it's probably overgrown or something up in the woods somewhere that, just is inaccessible. And so that might be a challenge as well. But yeah, very cool. For those who might be new to this whole thing and you've never seen us before, we are Genealogy TV, and this is actually the primary channel. There is also the Genealogy TV 2 channel, so make sure that you are checking that out. That is where I just go and hit record and start doing research on my own family history. And so I thought I'd just throw a little plug in there. And also we have a newsletter that Ashley totally does. Thank you, Ashley, for doing that.
Yeah,
And she keeps everybody up to date on what's going on in the newsletter. So make sure you're signed up with that. There's probably going to be some information about how to do that in the description somewhere. I'll try and make sure that gets in there. All right. Do you have any favorite tricks, Miss Ashley, for FindAGrave?
one that I very admittedly learned from you, leaving flowers,
Oh,
the virtual
yes.
flowers.
Yes. Yeah. So why? Why do we leave flowers?
I love it because it not only helps me to track which memorials I've actually visited and gathered information from, but again, to your credit, also using those memorials to track if other folks could be related to you, if they're also sharing an ancestor. It's a really, really great resource.
Yeah. So the cool part about flowers is when you leave a flower, it gives a timestamp of when you were there. So I've gone back to the same memorials before and go, oh, I was here in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And so I leave flowers again, though, even though I've done it before, I leave it again because it kind of gives me some information about when I was there last. But eh, yes, and right.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why is because new information by somebody else may have been uploaded or suggested stuff on Ancestry or some of the other platforms. And by the way, Ancestry owns FindAGrave. But that way, there's just this little timestamp to help me understand when I was there last. But also, when you go to put flowers in, if you go, this is my great grandfather, or this is my great great uncle, or something along those lines, people have an understanding of that relationship when they come to visit, and they can connect with you by clicking your name and message you through the FindAGrave system. So that's kind of cool. Some of the things that I like about it is the virtual cemeteries. So the virtual cemeteries, if you're not familiar, I think is the best kept secret on FindAGrave. So when you go into a ancestor's profile, you can click add and click to a virtual cemetery. And these are your own personal, think of it as a playlist. You're creating a virtual cemetery, maybe for the Knox family, and you can keep adding, and it doesn't matter what cemetery they're in, you can add them to the virtual cemetery. They could be some of them in Ohio and some of them in Utah and some of them in Nevada, and they could all be collected together in your Knox family cemetery. You could also do it by place. You could do it by cemetery. So sometimes you might want to create like a Greenwood cemetery, virtual cemetery, and add everybody that's in the family in the Greenwood cemetery to your virtual cemetery, and then you've got them all in one place. And to find your virtual cemetery, you go under your name. This is why I keep saying it's a best kept secret. They really should put it as a tab across the top, I think, because I think it's one of the best features on FindAGrave. And so you have to go up to your name, click on your name, and then you drop down to virtual cemeteries, and you can see all the virtual cemeteries that you've created. So if you haven't tried that trick, it is definitely worth talking about. Anything you want to add there? I've been rattling on. Sorry.
No, I absolutely agree with what you're saying. I love it, and I love the ability to do either of those things. Whichever method works for you, it's great.
Yeah. So the other thing that people might not realize, or I guess there's a bone of contention for some people, is the ability to transfer memorials. So for some people, it is, so basically whoever starts that memorial is the manager of that memorial. that manager can add and edit stuff in there, but others visiting cannot, but they can suggest edits. So there's like this suggest edit box where they can suggest edits. That information goes to the manager of that memorial. The problem comes in when there's disagreements about the information, or there's the manager of the memorial might be maybe an employee of the cemetery, and they've just got thousands and thousands of memorials under their name, and they don't really know the family or belong to the family. You can suggest edits, but you can also suggest that the manager transfer that memorial to you. And the way you do that is you scroll to the bottom of the screen. I believe it's at the bottom of the screen. You can then contact the manager and say, hey, do you mind transferring that to me? And I am the granddaughter, or I am the great granddaughter, or I'm some relationship, because a lot of times the people who are the managers of those memorials, they really want to know your relationship to them. And a lot of times, once in a while I hear stories about people not getting those transferred, but a lot of times they'll get transferred. I don't know if you know the answer to this, Ashley, but I have really seen a variety of things about what if somebody passes away who's the manager and somebody contacts them and there's no answer. At what point does FindAGrave automatically transfer that memorial to the person who's requesting it? There seems to be some period of time. I don't know if it's 2 weeks, 30 days. I don't know what that period of time is, but I've never been able to find an exact answer to that. Have you seen anything?
Honestly, I think my recollection would be roughly the same. I can't remember if it's 2 weeks or 30 days, but I do remember an Academy member saying that he had this same issue. I think it was someone who's been with us for quite a while, and he actually reported back his experience about getting that transfer because it did take some time.
Yeah, and there actually is a support somewhere on the website, I think it's in the footer, that will help you contact them. But again, FindAGrave is pretty much 100% volunteer run. I was just looking on the website over here to see if there is a help section,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know that is exactly. There is a website feedback link too in the footer that might help get forwarded to somebody who can actually help. So, I want to go back to one of the things that I don't like about FindAGrave, and that is the ads. For God's sakes,
Oh, goodness.
Ancestry,
Yeah.
please remove the ads from FindAGrave. Here's a tip. What I have done on my Firefox browser, I have put an ad blocker in. And the reason I did that was so that I could demonstrate FindAGrave
Mm-hmm.
on my videos without all those ads. Talk about getting them extra free exposure. It's just annoying. And there's so many of them. But because it's a free website and it was not originally owned by Ancestry. It was a private group. So, but anyway, it's really cool place to go find tips and tricks. And I got another one.
Oh, okay.
Click into the photographer.
Oh,
So
yeah.
if you see a tombstone on there, click into the photographer's name right underneath by the way, if you're doing source citations, you should always source the photographer. Click into the photographer's name. Sorry, lost my train of thought there. And you can see how many memorials that photographer has put up, because that gives you an indication as to whether that photographer is maybe a family member or not. Because if they got thousands of them, they're probably a cemetery employee or someone who's just a hobbyist who gets a kick out of running around taking pictures and uploading them as a volunteer. There are lots of them. It's a lot of fun. I've done it before. Sometimes it's a little challenging to find the cemetery plot, though, when you're in a huge cemetery and maybe there's not an office, like it's a really old cemetery, and you're running around going, where's Bob Jones? I'm trying to
Yep.
find Bob Jones in this giant maze of a cemetery. And so it can be a challenge sometimes. But some of these cemeteries are really cool. They've got we have a historic cemetery. It's called Oakdale Cemetery here in Wilmington. And it has QR codes. Some of these cemeteries are doing this. They put these little QR codes at the foot of the cemetery plot, and you can click on it and learn more about that person. Like, we got a bunch of famous people buried here, and you can learn more about that person from the QR code. It's kind of fun.
Isn't that amazing how different technology can be implemented? I think it's so cool.
If you're using the mobile app while you're in a cemetery,
Mhm.
I'm not super good at it, but you can actually stand and mark the location
Yes.
on the app
Mhm.
to say, I'm standing here, and it puts the coordinates in the memorial, which is
Mhm.
rather cool. So if you're making, trips around, in the spring, summer, fall, I don't know, maybe even in the winter, but if you're
Down here
getting
this
out
month.
and taking a walk in the park, you can actually mark some of those on FindAGrave, which is kind of fun.
For a while, I don't know if you participated in this at all, but I believe there was a time where Find a Grave was actually looking for help from volunteers. So it was like the Get Involved. I think there was an app, and you could transcribe and just do that in mass or whenever you had time. Again, being based on volunteer help, I just was like, well, I'm not in that area, but it was great that I had the ability to add them regardless of where I was, that I could contribute in that way.
It's always fun to do some of those projects, those preservation projects. And
Mhm.
if you think about it, cemeteries are always vulnerable to weather, hurricanes, right? I mean, you and I both live in hurricane territory, and they get destroyed, or some stupid teenagers come out there and kick over tombstones or whatever, or fire sweeps through the park. I mean, you never know what's going to happen. And so it's so important for us to try and preserve as quickly as we can while we can, right? So we did a whole episode on Find a Grave for the YouTube channel. And so some of these tips and tricks that we talked about today are in that video. It's just recent. So it's just search Find a Grave on the YouTube channel and you find it. I'll put a link in the description below. All right, Miss Ashley, where can everybody find us?
Well, you can always find us on social media. We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. You can sign up for the newsletter. Go to gtv.org to learn more about us. And of course, catch us on the YouTube channel.
And don't forget, we have the Academy for those who really want to dig in and learn some skills about how to do family history research. And I don't know that there's any more that I have to share about Find a Grave. You?
No, I think we're good. I thought we covered everything. It's a great resource.
It really is, and it's free. You can't beat it, right?
Oh,
So,
yeah. He's always great.
yeah, very cool. I think, are there notifications in there? Of course, I turn off notifications for everything, but I don't know that I have ever gotten notifications other than people trying to message me about my memorials or whatever. So I
That's
don't
all I've
think you get
ever.
spammed or anything from that group. So,
No, I've only ever received a message from another contributor.
all right. Well, this is fun doing podcasts.
This is cool.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys in the next one, or maybe you'll hear us in the next one. All right. Take care, everybody.